How to do analysis in Excel without the necessity of relying on pivot tables every time. I can change here the region, the option, as you guys can see, and all the values are going to be automatically updated for me. And everything you guys can see here are made up by formulas and functions. So no pivot table at all. And this is the focus of this video, how to do analysis in Excel without relying on pivot tables, with only formulas and functions, and very functional formulas, as we can notice right here. And on top of that, I had a interesting problem along the way. Quantity of orders. In this case, I cannot count repeated values, repeated orders, and I do have some repeated orders. I only need to count unique orders, because if I count repeated orders, the number is going to be quite inflated, right? So how can we solve this problem in Excel by only using formulas and functions? I think this video can help you quite a lot understand how to use formulas and functions in Excel, because we are going to do everything with a practical example. Make sure you download this Excel file and come right back, because we are going to see how to do formulas and functions in Excel to really help us on a daily basis. To get started and to create any type of analysis in Excel, the first thing we need is to have a data set. And in my case, I have this sales report, but it actually doesn't matter if it's not a sales report. Let's say even if it would be something else, a hospital data set, human resources, or logistics, purchasing, etc. It would work properly, right? Because the important thing is we need to have a data set with information, and it's exactly what I have right here. And I'm going to leave this Excel file that you guys can see right now, the data set, in the description of this video, so you can click on it and download the same file I'm using right now and follow the video along with me. Basically, we have different columns for different information within this sales report, and I have several rows. And the main goal here of this video, the focus is, can we create analysis by using only formulas in Excel instead of using the traditional pivot tables tools? And of course, we can do that. So let me show you here an example. I always like to start with the values, and by the values I mean numbers. Let me take the total amount, for example. I think we can just summarize everything within this column. So what is the total amount, the grand total? And then we can move on to a different analysis, let's say the total units sold. And then we can specify from it. As we are using, let's say, the total amount, we can be more specific. What is the total amount by salesperson? Or what is the total amount by product, by category, by department, by region? What is the total by date, months, quarters, years, and etc.? So I think a good idea is also always to take a large value, such as total amount or units sold, and then you try to be more specific. So let's do exactly this. I want to add here a new sheet. So click on the plus sign. That way Excel can add a new blank sheet for you. Right click on this sheet and go to rename. That way we can give it a meaningful name. Let's say summary, and hit enter. Or of course we could call it something else. Let's say analysis, dashboard, etc. Let me go back to my first sheet, just to make sure what we're gonna do as the first analysis. We can see that we have the total amount, so I think it's a good starting point. Total amount. What is the grand total, for example? In order to do that, we can use different formulas in Excel. But I think one formula that stands out the most maybe can be just the sum formula. It's a very straightforward formula. We can basically add up all the values we have. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. So on cell B2, I want to type in grand total and then hit enter. In the cell underneath B3, we can go with equals and then sum formula. Double click to select everything, to select the formula, right? And as our range, the number 1, the first argument, we simply go back to the first sheet and select everything. You can either click, hold, and drag to select a small range, or you can go to the entire column by clicking on the column label name, and then hit enter. Very simple. Now we have the grand total for the data set. We can do something similar to the total quantity, and maybe something kind of different that can be the quantity of rows, or in this case, the quantity of, I think quantity of rows, because we can count how many rows we have in the dataset. This can be useful because sometimes you need to count how many different orders you have, for example. So in this case, we can do something that is total rows or total orders, quantity of orders. I think it sounds more natural, right? Quantity of orders, and then hit enter. As the total quantity, we can again use the equals sum formula, double click 1, 2 to select everything. We can go back to the first sheet and select the unit sold. Just click on the column to select everything, hit enter, and here we have 17,426. And as the quantity of orders, we need to be mindful about something. Because let's say our first order is the order #01. And then the second is #02. And then the third row, we have #02 again. So how many orders we have right here? We have 3 rows, however, only 2 different orders, because one of those orders are being repeated. And it's totally fine, because this can happen on a day-to-day situation, right? On a real-world scenario. But how can we handle this situation when we have repetitive values? Okay, just use pivot tables because it can solve it easier. For sure, I agree with you. Using pivot tables, we can, let's say, save a lot of time, because pivot table, we don't need to do all those formulas. Pivot table does the formula in the background for us. But I want to show you a different solution. How can we, I don't want to use pivot tables. I want to learn Excel by the formulas, the functions. I want to do it by myself. How can we handle this problem when we have duplicated values or repeated values, 3 times, 4 times, and etc.? What we can do is, we can basically use some sort of extra column here to the right to help us do a extra calculation. But why is that? Because let's say, how Excel will know the difference between one order from another. Let's say here we have repetitive rows. Let's say the row 5th and 6th are the same order ID. So let me do that. They are the same. And then hit enter. And maybe again, I'm going to do the same process again. Okay, so we have here 3 times the number 4. So we have 3 orders being, one order that are being repeated 3 times. To handle this situation, I think if we only count the rows, we are going to have the grand total, all the rows. Excel is not going to distinguish between the equals, the values that are equal to others. So in this extra column, what we can do, we can counting only the unique values. So let's say, for this case, unique orders, hit enter. Let me increase the width of this column. And a formula that can help us here is going to be equals COUNTIFS. But how can COUNTIFS help us? The COUNTIF, or we can either use COUNTIF or COUNTIFS with this S in the ending of the formula. The main difference between those two are COUNTIF only allow you to use one single criteria. That is totally fine. That's exactly what we need. But COUNTIFS allow us to use multiple conditions, multiple criteria. But let's stick with the COUNTIFS, okay? Because I always use the COUNTIFS because it's better, right? It's more complete. Double click here, 1, 2. What I want to basically do is I want to count as the criteria range everything that I have within the column A. So select the whole column A like this, and then comma. I want to count every time the order that I have in this row, let's say the second row, appears. So click on this order. Every time the COUNTIFS formula finds the same order ID, in this range, it's going to count. Let's say here is the first appearance. And then if it's appear a second time, it's going to count 2, 3, 4, and etc. And this is exactly what the result is going to look like. If we have 3 times this order, the result is going to be the number 3 because we have 3 appearances for this order. Let me hit enter. Okay, just 1. So it's a unique order. Now let me click, hold, and drag downwards or double click within the cell 1, 2. That's it. As you guys can see, we have, as we did before, some repetitive rows 3, 3, and 3. Of course, because I did it manually myself, right? I just copy and paste those values. But how can we count only those unique orders? The way we have right here, this structure is not going to help us quite a lot. So I want to change something. Let me get rid of the first formula. Now we already understand how the COUNTIFS works. Let's do it again. Equals COUNTIFS. But this time I want to do a little tweak. As the criteria range, I want to only use the first and the second cell, just like that. And then I want to hit comma. And then as the criteria, I want to select this exactly same row. That is the second row, the row that I'm current at. And then I want to hit enter. As you guys can see, we have the same result as before. But something interesting is going to happen if I click, hold, and drag this formula down. As you guys can see, if I go to a random range, maybe this one right here, double click within the formula 1, 2 to open up. And if I go all the way here to the left, we can see that the formula follows the structure that we did. So it's using the current cell and the cell before, the previous cell. But and what if I lock the range always in the first cell, A1? The difference is going to be very, very noticeable, because if we extend this range as we go down, we can count the repetition. So let's say here is the first appearance for this order ID. So it's going to give us the number 1. And then because the range grows down as we go down, in the second row, we're going to have the number 2 because it's being repeated 2 times because of the range. So it's not going to count everything at once. Okay, this order repeats 3 times. So number 3 is the result. No, doing the range that grows as you go down, we have those multiple results. The first appearance, the second one, this row represents the third appearance, and so on. So just one more little tweak. Let's go to the first formula, double click, 1, 2, and I want to fix only the coordinate of the first cell, A1. So select only A1, click, hold, and drag, and then hit the F4 key on your keyboard to add the $ before the column and also before the row. Those $ make your reference locked in the position, so it's not going to change. The only thing that is going to change is cell A2. Today is A2, but in the next row it's going to be A3, A4, and 5, and etc. Hit enter. Now let me bring it down again. Double click on the square handle, fill handle, 1, 2, and that's it, guys. Look what we have right now. We have the number 1, 1, 1, 1 again. And then when it starts to being repeated, we have the number 2 and then number 3. So we have here a sequential number, let's say. What we can do right now is we can go back to the summary and only count the orders that are equals 1. So equals COUNTIF or COUNTIFS. We can do either the first or the second formula. Double click it to select 1, 2. And as a criteria range, I want to go back to the first sheet, select the last column, that is the unique orders, select everything, comma. And as my criteria, I can go here to the formula bar because it's easier to see. The second argument, as a criteria, I only want to count the number 1. So insert here the number 1. And why the number 1? Because the number 1 indicates only the first appearance of the order. If it's being repeated, it's not going to be counted. Close parentheses and then hit enter. That's it. So we have 1198 orders. But if we pay attention on how many rows we have quite a bit more than 1198. So it's working properly. So basically, this is how we can do the first portion of our analysis. We just did here something very basic to adapt the values, adapt the rows that we have. Now for the second part of the video, I think we can go a step further and be more specific with our analysis. In our case, we already have the grand total, for example, so we can expand the grand total into different options, into different analysis, into different shades. Let's say grand total by product, or by segment, by region, etc. So I was thinking about use the total amount, that is a information that we already have, but now to summarize this information, or to not summarize, because we already have the most compact form, that is the addition, the total, the grand total. But now we need to expand into different analysis, maybe total amount by product and by region. And I don't want to only do it by product name, because let's say we want to add a sort of filter option. So every time I look for South region only, it's going to only adapt the values that correspond to the products of the South region, etc. And to do that, I was thinking about maybe right here at the top, going for something like region filter, and then 2 dots, hit enter, and maybe in the cell underneath, we can type in all the regions that we have, or we can also do a drop-down list in Excel. Let's see here, we have not that much options. We have only South, Midwest, Northeast, West, South again, and etc. But instead of trying to figure out all the options we have, what we can do is we can create one more sheet separately. So click on the plus sign, but this time I want to rename it as lists, and then hit enter. What I basically want to do, I don't want to do this labor manual. I just want to take the whole column C, for example, where I have the regions, select everything. Then we can use the shortcut key Ctrl C and then Ctrl V to copy and paste it. Go back to the last sheet that we have, that is the list. Select maybe column B, Ctrl V to paste everything. But for sure, we have many duplicated values here. So go to data, and all the way here to the right, we can click on remove duplicates. So Excel can get rid of the repeated values, and we're going to stick with only the unique one. So click OK, and OK again, and that's it. South, Northeast, Midwest, and West. So this is our list. And let me just make here a very quick layout. Painting the header with this yellowish color, select the whole column B, increase the font size quite a bit to make it easier to see, increase the width, and that's it. Another list that we can do is with our products. It's very simple to do. We can go back to the sheet 1, select all the product names, Ctrl C to copy, go back to the lists, select a cell, maybe D1, and then Ctrl V. And we can do the same process for those products. Let's go to data and then remove duplicates, and then just hit OK. Excel is going to give here what he did, and then let's confirm it. And that's it. We have all those products. Bunch of different products, right? Let me increase quite a bit the font size to 14, increase the width, and also change the header layout. That's it. With all those different products that we have, I think we have quite many products, right? I don't think it's a good idea to display all those products within our summary. So maybe we can just stick with the categories, because categories are quite smaller. We have less categories than we have for products. So let's do it. Let's take the product category, select everything, copy, go to this new sheet and paste everything. And right here, we can do the same process again. Remove duplicates. Okay. And yeah, we have a actually smaller list. Let me increase the font size quite a bit, change the header so it's a standout from the rest. And okay, guys, I'm going to use the product category. I can select all those product categories right here, copy everything, go back to the summary, but be mindful, I don't want to paste directly onto those cells. I want to paste using a different format. Because if I just paste right here, all the formatting that we have applied on the previous list are going to be used here as well. Let's say that the font size and etc. But I don't want anything like that. So let me click on the cell F3, and then I want to paste it as values. Okay. And as the name for those lists, I want to go with maybe categories. And then we can hit enter. And as the second column, we can go with maybe total quantity and grand total or total sales. Hit enter again. Let me increase the width of the first column and also the width of both of those last columns. And as the region filter, guys, we can do something interesting here. We can use the drop-down list of Excel. We don't need to display here all the values because we don't want to see everything. We don't want to see everything. Yeah, that's it. We just want to see one option. So let me go to data and then data validation. Instead of allow any value, we want to only allow a list. Click on the up arrow and go back to the lists and select the regions. You don't need to select the header because if you do so, the header region is going to be an option. And I don't want to have the region as a option. I just want to have south, northeast, and etc. Down arrow and then okay. That's it. Now we can choose here throughout those items the region that we are looking for. Let's say northeast. So the values here, total quantity, total sales need to be updated. And as well, we think we can change the grand total, total quantity, quantity order to change as well as we change the region. But we can do it later. Let's go here for the total quantity. To adapt the values, not everything, but just certain values with that matches with a certain criteria, what we can do here is we can use, instead of equals, sum formula. We can do something more advanced, that is SUMIFS. Because the SUMIFS allow us only to sum, to adapt the values that met a certain condition, a certain criteria. In my case, the condition is going to be dining and also northeast, or sorry, dining, right? Let me double click here, SUMIFS, 1, 2, to select, and as the sum range is the range I want to adapt. And in this case, I'm going back to the first sheet and select the whole unit sold. That's it, the whole column. Then I can hit comma. And as the criteria range, let me click on the formula bar because it's easy to see. As the criteria range, we can go with the region, comma. And I only want to adapt the unit sold if my region equals the region that I choose right here. But on top of that, furthermore, we have more options to include here that are comma, criteria range number 2, the categories. So let me go back to the first sheet, and I only want to adapt the value if our category equals the second criteria, that is going to be the name that I have here to the left. Let me hit enter and see what's going to happen. So dining 292 in the northeast region. Is that right? Is that wrong? We don't know, so let's check it out. 222. Oh, sorry, 292. 292. Let me go back to the first sheet. I can select this whole data set or just click within the data set, or maybe select all the columns we have and let me apply a filter. Home tab all the way here to the right. We can go to sort and filter and then filter. That way we can enable the filter option. We want to make sure we match the condition we used before to know if it's correct or not. First, region. So click on region. I want to select only northeast because this was the option I choose. And as the product category, if I am not wrong, we are using dining. Okay, that's it. And as the unit sold, let's click, hold, and drag all the way through those numbers and check here throughout the bottom of Excel what is the total. 292. It's matching our result that we did, so it's working. Now we have the total quantity for categories and also for a certain region. Let me clear here the filters, but I want to do it once and for all. So go again to sort and filter, click on filter again to get rid of the filter tool. And if we go back, guys, to the summary, if we on the fill handle click, hold, and drag down, it's not going to work properly, as we can notice, a bunch of zeros. But why is that? Because every time we click, hold a formula and drag a formula down, what Excel does is it copies and pastes the formula throughout the rows. And as Excel copies and pastes the formula to the rows underneath, the range is also going down. And I don't want the range to go down. Let's say as the category, of course, I want to first use the first row, and then the second row, the third row, the fourth row. In D, I want the range to move. But what about the region? I don't want to use the row underneath. I just want to stick with this certain cell. So we need to lock this reference as we did earlier. Let me go back to the first cell, double click it, and only using the region filter cell, select everything here, we can press the F4 key to lock that reference. Why? I don't need to lock any other references because we are using the whole column. So, for example, column J to J. It's the whole column J. It's not going to change. It's not J1 to J10 and then J2 to J11. No, it's always going to be J to J. It's not going to change, right? It's, of course, can change if we click, hold, and drag to the right or to the left. It's going to change the column's position, but in this case, we are not using rows, so it's using all the rows. We don't need to lock the reference right here. Just hit enter. We can click, hold, and drag it out again. That's it. Now we have all the quantities. And for the total sales, we can do something similar, equals SUMIFS, but this time I'm going to do in a faster pace because we already learned how to do it. SUMIFS, double click it, 1, 2. As the sum range, we can go back to the first sheet, but this time I want to adapt the total amount, comma. And as a criteria range, we can either go for product name, category, or region, right? Doesn't matter. So let's start with the product category, comma. And as we select the product category first, as our first criteria, we need to select as the criteria the categories to match with the logic, comma. As the criteria range number 2, we can go back to the first sheet, select the regions, comma, and again to match with our range, we can select here the cell where it contains the region. And for sure, let's make sure we use the F4 key and then hit enter. Okay, let me change the format to accounting. So we use the $sign, but of course, if you use a different currency than dollar, you can do so. It's very simple. Just go to more number formats, and just here you can select the symbol that makes sense for you. Let me bring this formula down, click, hold, and drag. Okay, all the way here. And something interesting we can do, we can go to the last row of this summary and create a grand total to adapt those rows. Hit enter, equals sum, double click, 1, 2, click, hold, and drag up, and then hit enter. And in the cell underneath the total sales, we can do something similar, equals sum, double click to select, 1, 2, click, hold, and drag the range. Hit enter, and that's it. Now we have a table that looks like a pivot table. It's going to automatically be updated for us. We have all the categories, the quantity, the total sales, and if we change the region filter to south, for example, the values immediately change for us. And to do the same for the grand total, it's quite easy. We could use the SUMIFS but in this case, it's easier than we did before because we only need to apply one certain condition, that is the region filter. Or we can go straight down here and use this value because this value represents the grand total. But anyway, let me do it again. Equals SUMIFS, double click, 1, 2. As the sum range, I want to use the first sheet, the total amount, comma. And as the criteria, I want to use the region, comma. And as the criteria, let's use the region that we have underneath the formula. So how I'm supposed to select the cell if we have this formula label overlapping the cell. I cannot select it. Clicking any cell of Excel, maybe a cell here to the bottom, and using the keyboard keys, up arrow, down arrow, you can go to the left, go upwards, and then select the cell you were looking for, and then hit enter. Okay, guys, that's it. Now even the grand total is working. The total quantity are going to be faster equals the quantity that I have underneath, hit enter. And for the quantity of orders, of course, we would do a formula that is COUNTIFS. As the criteria range, I want to count everything we have here in the last column, comma, but I only want to look for the number 1, comma, and on top of that, as the criteria range number 2, the second, I want to select the regions, comma, and as my criteria, that is going to tell me whether or not to adapt, it's going to be the region up here. Hit enter, and it's working. So we have 328 for south, 277 orders for the region Midwest, and etc. So basically, that's it, guys. This is how we can do formulas in Excel in order to help us analyze data instead of going for the traditional tool of Excel, that is the pivot tables. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how can we use formulas in Excel to help us summarize our data. And if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you in the next one.